just like when we talk a little bit about community, how do you think about building community? Because even like those small things matter, right? Just like what you drink and what you talk about and how you connect. So how do you all think about community and engaging with your audience?
That's a really good point. I do feel like we have to curate more than just books. Like we're curating the vibes of
Right.
like, you know. So like, we have this thing called coffee break. So I feel like
Hmm.
that is kind of our way of bringing the vibes into the podcast. Because at the end of the day, you're here for the book, but you do, like you said, like the community is the aspect that you're staying for. So having that coffee break where we're drinking, whatever it is, it's not just coffee, but it can be tea, it can be wine. It's not exclusive. But just like something to just like make you remember, I guess, what matters. I feel like that helps bring everything in. Like, okay, like we're breaking bread almost. Like the damn Last Supper. Like we're about to get into it. And I don't want to be thirsty. Like I want to have everything right, like the vibe, like the so I think that's what coffee break is for. We'll talk about really anything under the sun, but it's definitely something that feels like what our audience wants to talk about, what wants to hear, like whatever it is. It might be pop culture or it might be music. It might be like an album we're really listening to at that time. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hopefully I answered the question.
no, that's good. Well, I think podcasts are so powerful because you're spending that time with somebody. It's like you could be driving, working out, eating. When you have that podcast, it's the audio. You're right there with a friend. You build these bonds with people even more so than I could go watch a TikTok, for example, watch it for 30 seconds. It's not the same as when I turn on a podcast. I can see like someone could be my best friend almost. Like if I seen a random podcaster that I've known, I'd be like, "How's it going? Nice to meet you." Like I feel like I've met you a bunch of times. So I do think when it comes to podcasts, there is a community element that's built that's even more unique because of the time spent and the relationship from listening to the audio with you.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And it also helps that our coffee breaks are like kind of at the beginning of the episode. So back to Sam's reference of breaking bread, it's like
Yeah.
right at the jump. So it kind of like almost like if you were to go to a like real life book club at the beginning, like you don't just go straight into it. Like you're like, oh, what'd you do today? Like, what's the newest whatever? And so that's kind of like what our coffee break is for us in our community.
Yeah, talk to me about outside of social media. How do you engage with your community? Do you all do any offline events or like in-person events?
We do
So that's
try to get into the community, but
yeah.
something we've been exploring more is like, should we do we've been discussing an in-person book club and throwing ideas around for that. So I do think it's something we want to invest in more heavily going forward. But yeah, I think we've really been more focused on the virtual book club aspect for the past few seasons.
Yeah, just because it's kind of like the premise of the whole show. Like you listen to the show and you're able to listen to it from anywhere, so you're able to be a part of the book club from anywhere. But I mean, even that part has been difficult because, but a light bulb that went off when I was talking to one of my podcast mentors is like, you have a book club podcast. Most people who read books more than likely are introverts, so it's going to be harder for you to kind of like get them on a call or like more of those like in-person type things or even virtual like a Zoom type thing. um which honestly did help because we were like, we have these people who like message us and whatever, but like why aren't they showing up? And it's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense actually. But I think with the rise of like TikTok and things like that, I think that's going to change too,
Yeah,
so.
that's good. And then when it comes to merchandise, how do you think about merchandise and building engagement with your book club through book merch?
That's also a great
I was about to say
question.
she's a merch girl, so I'm letting her take over.
So, I definitely want to get more, and I just feel like it's so great for branding to have like all this different fun merch. And so it's been in my head for a while. Getting it executed is sometimes like kind of hard. Our first merch drop was a few seasons ago, but it was just a t-shirt. And so, we've got something in the works now, but at this point it's just like I don't know. It's like I almost like don't want to say too much because we stay being like, "Hey, we're gonna do this," and then like it's 6 months later, and where's the merch? So at this point,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's coming. But yeah, I do think that having little like bookmarks, different things, random things can all like go into the community building and branding and that side of things. So it's something I love. It's just like it kind of can be problematic to who do you go through and like the logistics of it all.
Yeah. Talk to us about the book you all chose for this season and what people can kind of expect for this season coming up.
Yeah, so I mean, this week's actually a pretty big week because we announced on our Instagram and TikTok when the season's starting, which is June 5th. We say Well Read Wednesdays, so we always start on a Wednesday, and every episode comes out on Wednesday. And then our community chose it's this book called Black Girl IRL: Life Between the Mess and the Magic. And it's actually I too voted for this book too, so I was extra happy that it got chosen. Um, and it's really about just your regular average Black girl, like not the one who's like, like doing all these hobbies and doing these things, but like you go to work, you come home, and you live like a quote unquote basic life, and how they are still important too and have meaning and value and all of those types of things. And like just the pressure of society of like as Black women, like for us to do all of these big and amazing things, but like just because you don't doesn't mean you're a failure. I think that's kind of the premise of the whole book.
Yeah, that's good. I definitely will listen in and throughout the season just to hear and just and to support, of course. How do you get engaged? How do you gauge success for you all when it comes to hosting a podcast? Is it downloads, etc., listeners, people's feedback? What do you consider success?
To me is when we get those random DMs or emails about how something we said or have done for the show or on the show has literally changed somebody's life, or like how they feel seen, or that we are their like book besties virtually, even though they've never met us before. Because I think that's the whole mission of our show, is just to build. I know we've talked about it 50 million times at this point, but it's true, like to build that community and just having something where it's like I feel seen and we're all seen, and like you are not alone, truly we're all living the same lives. um so to me that's when I feel the most successful, is when we get that type of feedback. What about you, Sams?
No, I agree. I definitely think it's not the statistics or what is the number? Analytics.
Downloads, yeah.
It's not the download. It's not any numerical number. It's definitely like real life, real life people interacting and being like, "Hey, how's your podcast going?" And I'm like, "Oh, you care about my podcast. Like, thank you. That's really sweet." So, that's the stuff that actually like really hits me.
Yeah.
Now, do we like our download numbers? Yes, they do. They also do make us happy. So go listen to the show.
If you enjoyed that clip, make sure you head over to www.bookupapp.com to download our app so you can connect with your favorite bookish content creators, start conversations, and start your own book club.